All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for standing by. As a reminder, this event is being recorded and will be archived on constructionbusinessowner.com. Both the recording and a copy of the presentation will be available to attendees after the event. I'm Kathy Wells, editor of Construction Business Owner magazine, and welcome to Process Automation Before and After, presented by Lampros Arvanites, Paul Stone, and Construction Business Owner magazine. Today's webinar is sponsored by FlowForma, and will highlight insights from Lampros and his recent experience shifting his latest project to a digital environment. FlowForma is a leader in process automation tools for Microsoft Office 365 and offers an innovative approach to developing products that empower users to create and streamline processes smarter and faster using the familiar SharePoint platform and without any coding. It is my pleasure at this time to introduce our speakers, Lampros Arvanites and Paul Stone. Lampros is BIM manager at CVB JV, where he has been working on the Thames Tideway Tunnel and project in London, England. He's a civil engineer with a deep interest in the digital transformation of the construction industry. Paul Stone is a product strategist at FlowForma. With 27 years of experience in IT, Paul is the go-to product expert. He works closely with clients, supporting them in automating and streamlining their business processes. Now, with those introductions, we'll begin the webinar. After the presentation, we'll kick off the interactive Q&A session, where we'll open the floor up to your questions. You may send questions to us via the chat at any time throughout the presentation. Now, let's turn things over to Paul to get us started. Paul?
Thank you. So, hi, I'm Paul from FlowForma, and today we're going to talk about a digitization case study. I'm talking about how rapid forms and process digitization has helped CVB Tideway deliver their project. I'm joined today by Lampros Arvanites, a BIM manager on the project. Hi, Lampros, welcome to the show.
Hi, Paul. Hi, everyone. Nice to be here.
And what we're going to do, how we're going to run this is an interview style webinar. So I'm going to ask Lampros some questions and he'll present his answers. So let's start off with the very first question. So Lampros, can you tell us a little about the CVB JV and the Thames Tideway Tunnel project?
Yes, of course. So CVB stands for Costain, Vinci, and Bassi Solitans, which are the three main partners in our joint venture. And what we are doing is we're building a new sewer for London. So this is our big challenge at the moment. So we can prevent the frequent pollution of the River Thames. And our vision is not only to clean up the River Thames, but in general to promote a change in the relationship between Londoners and the river. So bring Londoners close to the river, which is now has a lot of discharges through a typical year, and it needs to be cleaned. So, yeah. So some details about the project. So it's going from 35 meters to 66 meters deep from west to east London. It's 7.2 meters wide, so it's a big tunnel, and it's 25 kilometers long. So it's a tunnel that is going with a flow. So from west London is higher, and then going to east London is lower, and it will take us around 3.8 billion pounds to build.
Well, that's a very significant project, Lampros, and I imagine it requires a lot of organization, of course, a very large number of resources being utilized in the project. So I guess, leads me on to my second question, which is, I guess, what motivated CVB to digitize processes for this JV?
Yes, so almost 1.5 years ago, we started looking at digital processes because we realized that we need to improve the way we govern and we have the compliance in our processes. We also wanted, because we are an environmental project, we wanted to meet our targets and reduce paper usage as well. So no more lost or unreadable paperwork, but also less paperwork on site. We also wanted to reduce the time it takes us to complete the processes and also to be aware of any holdups, so we know who is accountable, who we need to chase, and in general, people know about the process more. But also when we're submitting processes in a digital way, we have better and structured data that we can then analyze, have better and more strict record keeping, and improve compliance and governance. And then COVID came in our lives as well. So although we started looking at FlowForma before COVID, COVID was something that accelerated our adoption as well because it enabled remote working. So in general, these processes are very helpful for people that are working from home now.
Yeah, certainly. Like we see a lot of that across the construction industry. Everybody kind of wants to reduce paper, reduce the carbon footprint. They also want data. They want to be able to get access to data so they can make decisions and operate their projects faster, more efficiently. So certainly it's something that we see more and more often in construction.
Exactly. I can definitely agree on that. I see it more and more in different companies at the moment.
Yeah. So I guess another question would be, what did CVB require when they were looking for a process automation solution? So when they were looking for their tool, what did they need?
Yeah, so because we didn't look at the tools and the digital processes from the beginning of the project, but we started looking at it after it had started, and it was like 3 years after the original start. We wanted something with a familiar web interface and easy to use because we didn't want to bring a significant change to the project. So we have a SharePoint that we're using in the project, so we wanted something similar to that, and all the data to be stored in there so we can link it to other data we already have from different tools and different processes. Also, we wanted agility and speed to deliver processes. We wanted something that we can take ownership and do by ourselves and not require to bring a completely new team on board, the software engineering team, so something with no code. And because we were already using processes, we wanted all the outputs to be in our templates. So the existing templates we were using before to be able to continue using them, but now in a digital way. Because we have a lot of different sites and a lot of different people out on site, we wanted mobile access as well. But also we needed these offline capabilities because we're eventually building a tunnel, so everything will be underground with no internet connection. And because we have a big supply chain and we have the client as well involved in our processes, we wanted access for external users and not only people with email addresses in our from our project only.
Yeah, that's a lot of requirements.
Yeah,
it's quite a big, broad set of requirements there. But you know, I understand them all. I see like familiar web interface. You want something easy to use that's easy to adopt, because I guess if your construction workforce is not familiar with this kind of technology, you want to make it as easy as possible.
Exactly.
And of course, the mobile access being so important in construction, especially the offline ability. I guess if you want to access your system when you're down deep digging a tunnel in the Thames, you know, you'll want to have ability to access that process offline and so on. So yeah, I can see that set of requirements being very valid, but also being pretty complex. So it'll be interesting to see now what the resultant solution looked like.
Yeah.
But I guess first of all, you've got this big challenge ahead. So how did you get started? And maybe could you tell us a little bit more about some of the processes that you have automated?
Yeah, so we are 1 year of implementing digital processes through FlowForma at the moment. So when we started through the FlowForma Sure Start program, which was a step-by-step program of someone from FlowForma helping us developing our first process and training us. So we ended up having our first process live within 2 months, and it was a very nice learning experience as well. And then we'll be able to take this knowledge and start creating our own processes after. But always, you know, we had the support of FlowForma all the way. So we have 8 to 10 processes automated already within CVB. Some of the most important one and the complex one was the onboarding process, so new project starters and leavers in the project. And we have a lot of different people starting and leaving the project because we have a very big project team. Very important for a contractor, the digital daily site diaries that we have implemented. Environmental inspections in a digital way through tablets, and also duty manager briefing sheets. And something we have now recently rolled out is the digital plant maintenance system. So how we can do all the checks of the plant on site through a digital way.
That's great. It's impressive that you got your first process live in 2 months. I think it's so important to kind of get a quick return on investment. Like when you're kicking off a new way of working, basically you want to get that up and running as quickly as possible and get kind of feedback, positive feedback, hopefully from the workforce. So getting up
Exactly.
and running.
Yeah, and to say that the 2 months was not because we were building the process for 2 months on like the tool. It was to speak with different teams and implement the process right. So I think we had already the process built in the first 3 weeks, but then we had to engage with people to implement it. So
that's great. I mean, that engagement is so important. I guess with adoption, you want to be able to get people to buy into the system. So you want to throw it out there, get them to test it, get feedback and change it, and keep that cycle going and get them adopted. Yeah, it's an impressive list of impressive list of processes to get live. So it'd be great to hear a bit more about those.
Yeah.
So what results did you see from implementing those the FlowForma process automation?
So we have very recently started to give these results a bit of numbers. It's always difficult in construction. I find it, at least personally, difficult to monetize and show numbers for benefits. But for the benefit case studies we have done so far, we have saved at least 700 hours of repetitive tasks while using FlowForma within this year only.
That's great.
And we have improved the remote working due to during COVID-19 and supported our COVID-19 strict record keeping requirements. So this came through the site Diaries specifically about the strict record keeping. And we have improved our process governance, and also we now have structured data that we can analyze, and we're using Power BI to link to this data.
That's great. I guess because you got standardized processes now, everybody's following the same path every time, and you're able to evidence that because you have an audit trail, if you like, of all those processes. So yeah, it definitely like it imparts consistency, I guess, across the project. Everybody's doing things in a similar way.
Yeah.
And then obviously the big advantage of capturing data digitally is that you have all that data for reporting. So you can identify bottlenecks and so on as they happen. So that's a really big advantage over over paper systems and so on.
I agree, but you also need to have a think before, how you structure the data, because it was something new for our journey as well. So originally we thought, okay, we will have structured data, but you need to think a bit more and to understand the level of detail of the data you want as well. So.
Yeah, one thing I like about the approach is that it gets you thinking about these things. And even going through the exercise of thinking about your processes, thinking about the data you want to capture and how you want to output it all, it just going through that process makes you more efficient, gives you better understanding of your own processes, your own working environment. I think that's a big spin-off of going through this process.
Yeah, and we have improved some processes from before. So we have streamlined them now that are digital, and we found out that some steps we could improve them from before compared to a paper-based one. So
that's great. So on to my sixth question there. So you've got off to a great start by the sounds of things. Land process, you got 8 to 10 processes live in a year. You've saved 700 hours. I mean, it's looking really good. So I guess what's next for CVB?
Yes, so now we're looking a bit more on the actual field. So initially we started with a combination of some processes on the field, but some office-based. Now I think the aim of this year is to focus more on the field. So to do our ITPs and quality checks on the field with tablets through digital processes, our field change requests that are feeding our design, and also as we move to the system commissioning phase of the project to do our system commissioning checks as well, digital.
Yeah, that's great. Actually, that aligns well with other projects that we deployed FlowForma on, where they go through different stages. So you have you even have pre-construction, you have construction, you have post-construction, and at different stages the requirements change. You have different processes in action. So you're building new processes as you go along, and then modifying them as your needs change.
Exactly.
So it's very interesting to see that. For me, it's very interesting to see that list and to see where your kind of efforts are aligned. So to start off with, you're looking at like the daily diaries, and then you're moving on to those quality checks and system commissioning checks as you come to a later stage in the project. Yeah, it's very interesting. So I think now what we're going to do is I'm going to hand over to Lampros here, and he's going to do a little bit of a deep dive into some of those case studies, some of the processes that we just talked about, and we're going to see what they actually look like and so on. So Lampros, I'm going to hand it over to you now and let you kick off. Let me know when you want to move the slide.
Perfect, Paul. Yes, I was going to say that because you're saying so, I will let you know to move the slides. Yeah. So I will go through the daily diaries and the onboarding processes. So 2 different processes we have implemented. So the first one is about the daily site diaries. So the project need was to improve how we manage our diaries in general, and more specifically due to the strict record keeping needed for COVID as well, when COVID started being a reality. Also to bridge the gap between site and office, and also, as we said before, to analyze the data and improve reporting, because when you have so much data from your daily diaries, you can do delay analysis, you can understand your subcontractors, you can do a lot of different things. So our approach was to create a digital process using FlowForma, and so we could produce, review, and approve daily diaries. So we had 3 different steps in the process. We also formed a working group in the beginning to define the level of detail and the structure of the data we wanted as well, and how this can be linked with existing systems and processes. Like, so what we involved was, first of all, the construction and the site teams, but also the planning and the commercial team. So how this data are linked to the planning information, how this data are linked to our commercial needs, and all these kind of things. So if we move to the next slide, unless you want to ask something, Paul, for that.
I was just going to say, it's a great approach that you took there, and it just illustrates the way that, you know, a process really spans across the project. So there's many people involved in different parts of the organization, and it's important to get them all involved. So I think you took a great approach to that. But
exactly.
I'll let you carry.
It was a tricky one, because the more people you involve and the more teams you involve, you know, it's more tricky, but we eventually got there. So yeah,
I think it's good that like FlowForma allows you to concentrate on that, because it's the organization, it's the change management that's the real challenge. So it's trying to get all the people involved, all the people bought in, you know, before you kick off your new process. And,
exactly.
I'll jump on to the next slide now. I'll let you take over.
Thank you. So this is just an example of how the first step of the process looks like when people are filling the form. So we had all the details. We also had an ability to load previous reports data, so from something that has already been submitted, and this was very, very important. So people, because, you know, in the same week, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday may look similar on site. So if you have submitted Monday, then you can load Tuesday and Wednesday, the same data in there, and just adjust them. So we were recording the activities and the delays, recording the labor and the plant allocation, and we had replaced the standard labor allocation sheets that the black hats on site are producing. And we had also the subcontractors on site, the number of people, deliveries, and also general information about COVID nodes and risks, and also health and safety and quality nodes in there. So this is how our process is looking like.
That's great. And Lampros, can I just ask you, I mean, this system that we're looking at right now, this is something that you built, or was it built by CVB?
Yes, yeah. I built it by myself, and I am a civil engineer. I don't have an IT background. So after I did this sure start process and the training, then I was able to start building the process by myself. Yeah.
That's great. I mean, it looks very impressive. I mean, you have workflow there. I see 3 steps across the top and lots of different data. So really, it's a very, I would say, a very complete system. It looks really good. And it's great that it includes so much detail in it. That's fantastic.
This is what we wanted, the more detail, but again, the right balance, because we didn't want people on site to feeling so much, you know, so much detail in there. So yeah,
you don't want to overwhelm them. You want to get them to adopt it and use it. And I think that's such a great point, that you don't want to make it too complicated.
Exactly.
But you want to help them as much as you can to fill in the data. Yeah, it looks really, really good.
Perfect. Yes. So let's move to the next slide. So it's about the benefits. So first of all, on the right, you can see the 3 different steps. So the site engineers were preparing the report. Then we had the section engineer or the PM on site, the agent approving it. And then we were doing a commercial check where we were aligning the data with the commercial needs and also doing a general commercial check. So The benefits, as we said, was the support remote working through a digital platform with defined steps, also automated notifications, notifying the people that need to act, and also generating documents. Because before, we had an Excel file that we were printing to PDF. Now we wanted again a PDF at the end that we could share with the client, we could share with different teams. So this is what FlowForma allowed us to do, to have inbuilt our template that we had before, but in the new digital process now. So,
yeah, absolutely. Like it has that ability to generate that PDF at the end. And I think that is so important, because if you're moving away from paper, you have to be able to continue to support the systems that use that paper in the past. So you've got to be able to generate that PDF. But of course, as it's a PDF file, you actually get rid of the physical paper, which has massive benefits. So
exactly.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
Yes. So you can see some steps for this as well, like eliminate unnecessary emails and phone calls, because people are receiving automatic emails when they have to act. Reducing times to move documents to the correct folder because they are stored automatically there, and also easily identify the status of the daily report to know who is responsible for next steps. And also we had all this daily data, so you collect in a structured way, and we can develop the productivity delay dashboard that unfortunately I cannot show today because it has some sensitive information, but enable the team to understand recurring causes of delay and make data-driven decisions as well.
I think that's just so. Sorry, I just think it's so important in other projects we feed that as well, the ability to quickly highlight delays, and of course delays mean money in projects, and yeah, absolutely, we see that significant. Sorry, Lampers, carry on.
Exactly. No, that's a very fair point, Paul. So yes, only for one daily report we will manage to have almost 20 minutes savings. So multiplying this by the forms we have already created in the system, it's almost 500 hours so far saved from repetitive tasks. So let's move on to the next case study. And this is about the onboarding. So, new starters and leavers on site. We generally wanted to improve the way we do things on that, because we found out that we have a lot of different starters and leavers within the same month, and we wanted to manage it better with a large project team. So I wanted to improve the efficiency and ensure all steps are being followed properly, but also visibility. And also what we identified was that we wanted to link information with different processes. So before, when something was, a starter form on a paper, then this information is just staying there. But now we could feed this information to other people that do other things with it. So it was a very, very, very good what we wanted to achieve with this process. So this is what we needed originally. And again, what we did was, again, through FlowForma to produce, review, and approve different steps with different people. And this is a big process we have. We did a lot of brainstorming sessions, again, because we wanted to understand from different teams what data they need to use for the different procedures they want to apply. And we involved a lot of different people, like all the line managers on the site that they are bringing a new starter, the leadership team that they are approving, IT, accounts, health and safety and environment, quality, and the admin teams as well. So making sure that the information is going to there when they need it.
Yeah, there's an awful lot involved in onboarding a new resource with various accreditations, certifications, and so on that they have to have, and then communicating all that information to IT, like getting them set up in the system and so on. So I can see that there are probably a lot of steps in this process, is my guess, Lampros, but yes, you can tell us more about that.
There are a lot. If we go to the next slide, I think I'm not showing all the steps. I'm showing how the form when the line manager is generating looks like, which is not a big form, as you can see. It has a very simple steps and simple fields to fill. Yeah. So this is what we wanted, and this is what we have found. It's now a very easy way for line managers to raise a new form and not start, chasing different departments. Okay, this is done, and this is done, and everyone knows the status. So we have automated email notifications, but also people integrated in different steps. So for example, when the form is submitted and it includes information about the name, the team, line manager, who is signing the timesheets, which is the parent company, is it a permanent staff, is it an agency staff, and all this kind of stuff. So the senior leadership team was approving and making sure it's as per the plan. Then the IT was is being notified automatically to prepare the email account and prepare a laptop as well for this new starter. The accounts team is notified to add this new starter in the systems, and on the timesheets app we have as well. The commercial team to ensure that all the agency and permanent work staff are being recorded properly. And also something we have added afterwards in the process very recently was to include the induction team as well. So the induction team is being notified to book the necessary inductions for the person on site. So yeah.
Yeah, that's great. There's a lot going on when you're onboarding an employee. If you're doing it right, like there's a lot of comms that has to go around, and it's clear that the system is automatically sending those comms and getting everybody informed. And it's interesting with the project induction. Presumably that included things like COVID preparation and so on. So yeah, that's it's very interesting, and it's a good fit for a digital process. I mean, I feel that onboarding and offboarding is such a common requirement, and so often, the requirements actually quite specific to the project, specific to the customer. So everybody's slightly different, and having that ability to quickly throw up something that actually meets everybody's expectations and needs is really important.
Exactly.
Okay, so I'm just now going to talk a little bit about why construction companies should seek process automation, which is kind of a summary almost of what we talked about already. But just to say that one of the key things is having that ability to take ownership and do things yourself, not being so dependent on IT resources. As we can see there, that Lampros was able to create a solution himself very quickly that specifically met the needs of the project, and is having that ability to empower those people, the business people, the engineers, to actually do things themselves, really gets results and gets results quickly. And it helps the system be adopted by the workforce. And that's so important. You have people with maybe low digital skills, and it's a difficult win to actually get them to adopt the process. But if they have some ownership in that, if they participate in the building of the system, it really helps a lot. Also, having the ability to integrate with Microsoft products like Microsoft Teams, and people already have familiarity with those products, especially in these times where Teams has just exploded in terms of its use. So having that ability to integrate with these systems really makes a difference too. And then Lampros touched on it very briefly, but FlowForma allows you to engage with customers and suppliers. What does that mean? Well, those external entities, external suppliers, for example, are actually able to participate in the processes. They can be assigned a step in the process, and they can go in and complete the form or upload the documentation for that particular step. At the end of the day, it all allows you to remove paper, which reduces your carbon footprint, which is just becoming an increasingly important thing for everybody in the whole area of sustainability. And in certain countries, it's even monitored. You'll get fined and so on if you're not actually, operating in a sustainable way. Big feature for all of our customers in construction is having that offline mobile access, being able to fill in a form when you don't have the internet connectivity. Obviously, you have people working on remote sites. The CVB tunnel is an ideal example of that. But even other projects that we've worked with, like the A14, for example, it's a very long highways project in that instance. You can also commercial property construction and so on. You'll always find environments where you don't have that Wi-Fi signal. You need to be able to, fill in a form while disconnected. So offline mobile access is just so important. Also, we find in construction, having a low startup cost is so critical. So you don't want to throw a large amount of money at process development upfront. You want to start small and then grow over time. And that's what they did at CVB, where they built out their first process in a couple of months, got that right, got that singing, and then they went on to build a further 8 to 10 processes over the year. So you start off small, then you grow it over time. And as you grow it, you prove the returns. And how do you do that? Well, you're capturing all that data, all that audit trail of all that activity that you're doing, and you can use that data to help build that business case and justify further investment. So you can prove the return that you're getting and prove that back to your management, and also to the people on the ground. They can see that they're actually getting better results by using digital process automation. When they're filling in the forms, communications are slick. They can see the benefits, and that's just so important that everybody involved sees the benefits as you move along. So if we talk about processes that you might need, well, just to say that Lampros gave us some great examples there, like site diaries, really, really good. But there's lots of other processes that you can digitize. So Lampros mentioned he'd done 8 to 10. He's doing some more, but you might also see things here like risk assessment, concrete pours, materials requisition. These are processes, these are processes that are implemented, in many of our construction clients. And we've also, by the way, developed our product to facilitate construction. So we do things like wet signatures. You'll see on the screenshot there, the third one there, we have a wet signature capture feature that was specifically built to help our construction clients. We also capture things like locations and so on, all built into our product so that you can build the forms that you need to carry out your work on your project. Some of the customers that we have, I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail, but we've got customers in a wide variety of fields. But we have very much a focus now on construction because we see there's a great need to move away from paper. So we have construction clients in the States, we have construction clients in UK and Ireland, across all the way down to New Zealand and to Australia. Inland Rail, for example, is the largest rail project in Australia at the moment. So we've significant presence in many construction environments. Okay, and now I think that we'll close off there and let's open it up and see if we have any questions to myself or to Lampros.
Yes, thank you so much, gentlemen. Thank you for sharing your insights and this great detailed information with us. We've had a few questions come through the chat. So at this time, I'd like to go ahead and kick off the Q&A session. And guys, if you're ready, we'll just jump right in. And attendees, please feel free to keep your questions rolling in and we'll get to as many as we can. Let's start with a question for Lampros. What are your top 3 tips for user adoption?
Yes, so the top 3 tips is, first of all, know exactly what you want to get from the process. So spend a bit of time in the beginning to understand what you need to achieve. Otherwise, you will not be able to structure and create it in a good way. Then involve as many of the teams that you can, so they can give feedback and provide feedback, and so you can again get this quality of the process to the standard you want. And also, what I would say is that have a look at all the no-code solutions, because personally, I think that it's much easier if you own the process, if you know exactly what you are creating, and you are creating for people on site and not, talking with different companies, software engineers and things like that to find exactly what you want to do. So if you have, as with FlowForma now, you can use the tool to create your own processes from scratch, and I think this is a very good tool to use. So.
Wonderful, thank you. Paul, anything to add?
Yeah, on the last point, I just kind of like to say that FlowForma, it truly is a no-code solution, so you don't need any digital skills really to build out those processes. So the processes that Lampros showed you there, he built himself, and as he said, he doesn't have an IT background, and it doesn't require any coding skill or anything like that. And it's something that's quite unique in the marketplace. So it allows you to, it fits very well to construction because it allows you to take those paper forms that you have right now, quickly throw together a digital prototype, if you like, of what an electronic form looks like. And then you can add on the process elements onto that and build a solution really quickly and prototype it and share it with your colleagues and get feedback and make it something that they feel they own and they're happy to adopt. So again, I guess it's just jumping over what Lampros just said, but I'd stress again that the ease of use of FlowForma, it's such a critical thing. So yeah, that would be a key to success.
Great, thank you guys. Next question, I believe Lampros might want to take this one. Our attendee is asking, did the AI use in construction improve during COVID-19? And how is your experience with stakeholders? Are there any struggles of implementing technology?
Yeah, so I have to say that yes, the implementation of AI and also of any digital tools really skyrocketed when COVID came. Like, we had so many requests, how we can digitize that, how we can avoid paper, how we can avoid contact. So I can definitely say that it has improved a lot in construction, and we know, and if everyone is from the construction industry here, will know that we struggle a lot in construction from digitizing. So I can really see that COVID-19 boosted this fact. So, and about experience with stakeholders, we have seen a lot of positive experience with stakeholders. So our client and our supply chain, I think they all picked up the challenge when COVID-19 came, but also, when we wanted to improve on site. And I have seen a lot of positives, and you can see struggles as well. You can see struggles implementing sometimes low internet connection. Sometimes you don't have the digital skills on site. They need a bit more support, but I think we're getting there as an industry in general. So.
Great. And Paul, would you like to say anything in addition?
Yeah, absolutely. I think with the stakeholder support, it's important to show improvements as you make them. So in other words, as you digitize one process, be able to show that actually you're generating savings, which the land process has done so well there. And it's a part of that ability is being able to capture the data. So the data is captured automatically, and that includes performance metrics. How long did it take to do X, Y, and Z? You're able to analyze that data and show the saving over time. And even as you change the process and improve it, make it more efficient, you can demonstrate those efficiencies. And that's just so important in getting those stakeholders to buy in, not just in the short term, but in the long term as well.
Great, guys. We've got lots of questions rolling in, so I'm just going to keep going here. Let's get one for Paul. Does FlowForma have a facility to integrate with other packages such as any CRM systems or any accounting packages such as Xero?
Yeah, absolutely. So FlowForma runs on top of SharePoint, first of all. So it saves the data and the documentation and so on inside SharePoint, but it also integrates with other third-party systems. So we can integrate with Dynamics CRM, for example, out of the box. And we also have other mechanisms for integrating with other systems as well. The primary mechanism that we talk about often is using Microsoft Logic Apps. We can integrate through Microsoft Logic Apps to over 200 cloud applications. We can also integrate with on-premise applications as well. A great example is the Inland Rail project there, a large project in Australia, integrates with the project costing system, which is running on-premise. So yeah, absolutely, we can integrate with other systems, and we're very happy to talk to you about those systems and talk through how best to integrate with them.
Okay, and Lampros, anything you'd like to add? I know that one was kind of more for Paul, but.
Yeah, I want to add that we're also using Power Automate on top of FlowForma. So when our data is stored on SharePoint, we then use Power Automate to push them to a lot of other systems that are supported by Power Automate. So yeah.
Okay, great. Next up, let's see what you guys have to say. Lampros, what is the biggest hurdle of people not using digital forms?
Personally, I think that when someone is in the office, it's a bit easier to use digital forms. So when you are only relying on your laptop and the internet connection, then it's you don't have a lot of hurdles and issues. Although generally on construction sites, we experience low connectivity and not so good internet connection. But I think this is something that the technology is getting better and better. So this will be a thing of the past, I'm sure, in the future. When you are on site, in terms of workforce, my tip is that people out on site don't want to use their own mobile phones when they want to use a digital process. So they are reluctant most of the times to use their own personal phone. So you need to take into consideration that. So buy some tablets or have an area or a laptop on site where people can go and use it and things like that. But now we have bought a lot of tablets for our site, and this is why we're now confident that we can overcome this hurdle of the phones. Yeah.
Yeah, Lampros, I'm going to add another question onto that since you kind of led into it here. They're asking, is this suited to use on mobile phones or tablets? You want to speak a little bit more about that, and maybe Paul also chime in?
Yeah, so yes, it is. So whatever you are doing on your PC, you can do it on the mobile phone and the tablet, and it supports both iOS and also Android. So yeah, Paul, do you want to add something for this?
Yeah, sure. So FlowForma, we produced a mobile application, and you can download it from the Play Store or from the Apple App Store. And what it does is it automatically connects to your SharePoint environment and allows you to fill in forms on those mobile devices and upload them to SharePoint. And we've actually developed some functionality specifically for mobile. So we developed, I talked about the location ability earlier on, where you can actually integrate a map into your form, and you can capture the GPS location of the device. Very useful for things like site surveys and quality checks, where you might want to capture the GPS location of a specific defect. So we built that functionality in there as well. We've also made our mobile phones application very suitable for touch-sensitive screens, and you can do things like take a photograph and automatically attach it to the form, that kind of thing. So we put a lot of focus in our development of our product into developing a mobile interface, because we saw it as so critical, certainly in construction, but even in other environments as well. Mobile is everywhere now. So we've made it a focus to make sure that the mobile experience is as good as we can make it. And that is running on any device you like. So any Android or iOS, phone or tablet, you're always able to access those forms, whether you're online or offline. So we try to make it as easy and as standardized as possible. So it's important to say as well that the mobile experience is very similar to the desktop experience. So if you're filling in a form on a mobile device, and then you're filling it in later on a desktop device, it's actually going to be the same kind of experience. It's going to work the same way. And that really helps with adoption. So Lampros can build a daily diary on his desktop, and he can send a link out to one of the site workers. They can look at the same thing on a mobile device, and they're getting the same form, same kind of experience.
Cool. Okay. Lampros, would you mind telling us a little bit more about how CVB prioritized processes for automation?
Yes. Okay. So this one, in the beginning, we wanted to do something that we thought it would be simple to do, and it could be implemented very fast, and also that it was a process that it was already in our day-to-day lives, and we were relying on that. So this is why we focused on the onboarding, because the form itself was not big. You didn't have to create a lot of different fields. Then we expanded it, to be honest. But in the beginning, yes, this is a thing. We focused on something simple to implement, but it can bring, a fast benefit, and we can see very fast its impact. So this was the way we did it.
Wonderful. Okay. I've got a question here, and we covered a little bit of this in the presentation, but Lampros, what's your advice to organizations looking to select a process automation tool?
I think you need to look at the different systems you are using already to find a way to integrate them and connect them. I find it very difficult in construction in general, to have this system architecture knowledge in the beginning of the project sometimes, and your systems. So yes, I would suggest people to look at solutions that are flexible and that can be integrated with different systems.
And you did touch on this for a second, but I'd like to bring it back up. One of our attendees is wondering, is it just you building the processes yourself? And how do you plan what process to automate next?
No, it's not me. So we have an internal team that we have trained, and they know how to create processes through FlowForma. What we look to prioritize. Generally, we have created a digital working group that is running monthly, and a lot of times digital processes and FlowForma is on the agenda. So when we feel that we need to take, understand what people need to prioritize and what different teams need to prioritize, then we bring it. We all sometimes, discuss it all together. Okay, what is the next priority? We focus on that when we identify the teams to work on with in order to achieve that. So, yeah.
Thanks, Lampros. I'm going to hit Paul with one here. FlowForma specific. Can you tell us how the FlowForma platform works on site if you lose connectivity or power?
Yeah, absolutely. So when you're working on site, you're using your mobile device, and what happens is the mobile device has an ability to cache the forms. So basically, the forms are saved on your mobile device and then synchronized back to your SharePoint area. So let's say you lose connection, you can fill in the form on your mobile device, save it, and then when you have connectivity again, you can synchronize back up, and it automatically uploads back up onto your SharePoint area. So it's using SharePoint as a kind of a data storage area, but you can cache things locally. Sorry, that's a rather technical term, but you can basically store things locally on your mobile device, and then when it can have connectivity, you can synchronize them back up again.
Great. Let's stay on this train for a second. Paul, an attendee is saying, I use Power BI. Does FlowForma integrate with the Power Platform?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. At the end of the day, one of the great things about FlowForma is that all your data is stored in your Office 365 or Microsoft 365 tenancy, stored in SharePoint. And you can then use that data and integrate it into any of the Power Platform components like Power BI. So you can use Power BI to do reporting, and I think that's what CVB do. Certainly our other clients do it, where they're using Power BI as a dashboard mechanism, and they're reading all the data from FlowForma. And the great thing is, with FlowForma, you can validate all that data as it's being captured. So you're building up a very strong data set using FlowForma, and then you're using Power BI to present that data to the end users. And included in that data set is process performance, and you can identify those bottlenecks, red flags, things that are running late, and you do that all in Power BI, the reporting tool.
Great, thank you. Lampros, anything to add there on behalf of CVB?
No, I agree. We do the same. We have linked our SharePoint lists where the data is stored with Power BI, and we're able to present. We have a lot of different dashboards that the team is using. So yeah, I definitely agree on that.
All right, great. Next question. Let me grab one here. Our next question is, can FlowForma be used to manage workflows? For example, could a manager allocate tasks to a team and see a dashboard of which team members have overdue tasks and who has capacity, etc.?
Yeah, I can pick that up. Yeah, absolutely. FlowForma automatically knows who's assigned to the workflow. So it has a sequence of steps in the workflow, and each of those steps is assigned to a person or to a group of people, and automatically it tracks who's assigned to the current step, and you can report on that in Power BI. Now, the other thing you can do is we also have this system we call it Collaborate, that actually lets you see a very kind of focused view of all of that. So you can see who's doing what at any particular time, which processes are currently assigned to you, what is your workload right now, and you can also see your team's workload as well. So you're able to do all that process management piece on top of being actually just executing the processes. So it's very useful for supervisors and managers to be able to see the workload of all the members of their team. It's also very useful for you personally to see your own workload. So all that information is captured centrally and able to be reported and shown through dashboards. Yeah.
Lampros, would you like to jump in and add anything?
Yes, I wanted to add that there is also a delegate button in the form, so that we're using. So sometimes if you think that the form needs to be assigned to someone else, you can just hit this button and easily delegate to someone else. So yeah, this is my addition.
Can I just add actually something I forgot there? Just to say that the system also supports things like automatic escalations. So you can set up a step in a process to say take 3 hours, and then after 3 hours, if it's not being completed, it can automatically escalate it on to somebody else. And it also has this ability to send communications as well. So you can send people reminders. You can say, well, you haven't done this job. This job has taken longer than a day. Okay, you haven't done it. Please complete it. And then maybe the next day you say a stronger message. And then the day after that, you send an email. The system automatically sends an email to the person's manager to say this job needs to be reallocated. So you can send these automatic reminders and escalation emails on top of that to kind of drive the workflow forward, keep everything moving.
Fantastic. Thank you, guys. Let's go for one more question before we wrap things up today. Paul, customer experience is at the top of our agenda, says this attendee. Can you explain how I can enable contractors to input to our processes?
Oh yeah, we have got a system called Engage, and what Engage allows you to do is to assign a step to an external entity. So it may be a person that you just, for whatever reason, you don't want them on your system. They're not an employee. So you can assign a step to them, and you can use things like their Gmail account, Google account, assign a step to that person. And then when you can send them a link in an email, they click on the link and then they have to authenticate into Google. And then they're presented with a form on their desktop and they're able to fill in the form and submit that information to you. And when they see that form, it has the same controls and regulations and validations in it that like a person within your organization would see. But they can't see any other data, so they can't see previous steps and so on. So our Engage solution really is quite unique in the marketplace in that it enables construction projects to work with external contractors, subcontractors, and so on, and have them complete steps in business processes that ultimately lead to business goals, project goals being completed, and that's all captured in the audit trail. It's all available through reporting, etc. So yeah, our Engage tool allows you to involve those external parties, whether they're customers or whether they're suppliers or contractors. And of course, each of those is important in terms of the experience that they have with you as a lead contractor. So it's important to kind of keep that experience as good as possible. And FlowForma allows you to do that with its dynamic electronic forms.
Great information.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I agree with Paul. And there are two options there. It's the public and the secure. So you can also, if you want to create a poll and send it to the community, you can have this publicly without any authentication needed, but you can do a secure one with an authentication through an email address. So yeah.
Okay. Well, that does it for our questions today, everybody, which will bring our webinar to a close. I'd like to thank our presenters for the great information they shared with us today. And thank you everyone for all of your great questions. I just want to let you know too that attendees can download a copy of the presentation and access playback of today's event at constructionbusinessowner.com/webinars. And you can also check out more articles on this topic and even more educational webinars. Thanks again to Lampros and Paul for sharing their expert advice. And I do have one last note from our sponsor, FlowForma. They've extended a special trial offer to today's attendees. So you can check out the details of that offer at flowforma.com/trial. But also later you'll receive an email with a link to that and more information. Thank you again, everyone, for taking the time to join us. I hope everyone has a great afternoon.
Thank you very much. Thank you for organizing this.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys.